Good morning. It's a pleasure to be here today again and to share with you the perspective of one of the most vulnerable parts of society in Europe, our farmers. When ChangeNOW told me about the context of the session today, I immediately had to think of a picture that we used in the very first Climate Farmers presentation back in 2020. What you see in front of us looks a bit like it's the Sahara or any other desert in the world. But in reality, it's a field of a farmer in eastern Germany, in Brandenburg. And it's a field that can no longer be used for agriculture. Now, as climate farmers, we are working with farmers in the European context, and we are seeing firsthand the effects of climate change for them. More than 50% of all European farmers are already suffering from water scarcity. We have several situations of crop loss in recent years, such as maize, for example, where we lost 30% of the total harvest in 2022. And many of you might remember the spike in olive oil prices in 2024 due to 26% loss of the harvest in 2023. In total, we have 12 billion euros in damages every year due to climate change-related crop loss for farmers just in Europe. In peak situations like 2021, when my hometown Geilenkirchen in Western Germany flooded, we had 40 billion euros in damages just in Germany, Belgium, and the Netherlands. And overall, it's not just less rain, we also have more heavy rain, more heavily concentrated, and this increased by 30% since 1950. Now, the big problem for farmers is we do not only have an issue due to climate change, we are also starting to see the consequences of 70 years of industrial agriculture. Since the Second World War, we have heavily practiced plowing and the use of chemical inputs. And that related to 63% of all European soils being completely degraded, which means we have less water retention, we have higher flood vulnerability, and higher erosion risks for farmers. On top of that, due to these practices of industrial agriculture, we have also lost the nutrients in our plants and in our food. So the food that we're eating nowadays is not nourishing us anymore, and the soil is not nourishing the plants anymore. This leads to more human diseases, skyrocketing cancer rates, skyrocketing Alzheimer rates for humans, but also more pests and diseases for farmers, which means they need to add more inputs again in order to keep up the yields, which is the only thing that they are getting paid for. Now, on top of that, we also have societal consequences, because most farmers in Europe are not really in a situation where people are aspiring to do what they are doing. I always say, being a farmer is not something you mention on your first Tinder date. Farming is simply not sexy right now. And that means we went from 14.4 million farmers in Europe in 2005 to 9.1 million farmers in 2025, and the tendency is going further down. The average age of farmers in Europe is 57 years, and only 12% of our farmers are under 40. Now, regenerative agriculture holds the potential to tackle this issue. I don't have the time in this talk to go into the details, but essentially, in agriculture, we are normally fighting against nature. In regenerative agriculture, we see farming as an expression of nature. We are farming in order to support natural cycles. This has many positive benefits. We're taking carbon out of the atmosphere, we are restoring water cycles, and through that, we're reducing the effects of climate change, and we create higher resilience as well as higher and more nutrient-dense food. As climate farmers, we believe that humans are a keystone species. We believe that we have the possibility to have a larger than average impact on our planet, and that can be positive, which would be an honorable title we would share among others with beavers. Right now, unfortunately, we have a largely negative one. We also believe that regenerative agriculture is the way to get there. For that reason, we started back in 2020 Europe's first and largest farmer community of practice. We have farmers learning from each other how to do regenerative agriculture in practice on their farms and online. And now I want to share with you a few examples of these farmers in Europe. I have to send a little disclaimer here. Most farmers are communicating on WhatsApp. So the videos that I'm sharing with you right now, I received from our farmers on WhatsApp. So they might not be up to the highest high-definition picture quality which you're used to. ChangeNOW warned me of this, so my apologies. So this is an example from a farm in Portugal from Francisco Alves. And what you're seeing is animals, how they would behave in nature. This farmer has cows, he has pigs, he has sheep, he has goats. They're all year outside, grazing on pastures, under trees, in his case, under oak trees, as nature intended for them. And this is the farmer in Western Germany, Dolf von Weselmar. And what you can see on this field, it's his conventional neighbor, where you can see the water standing on top of the soil. And then you can see his field, where he has healthier soils, so the water is getting soaked in, you don't have water standing, and you have less risks of crop loss due to flooding. And then we also have the opposite. This is the drought situation that we had in the UK, and we have a farmer, Dougal Hamilton. Again, first, you see the conventional field from his neighbor, where you see quite a lot of brown patches, and then you see his field, where it's green, because he keeps his field covered over the whole year, and he has a diversity of crops, as you would see it in nature as well. And then lastly, an example from Spain. This is a case of erosion, where you can see first the more clear water coming from the right side, which is from the regenerative field. And then when we go to the left side, you can see it's a lot more muddy because the soil is being taken away, which is an example of a field that has been deteriorated through industrial agriculture. Now, to close it off with a few numbers at the very end, at Climate Farmers, we also believe we need to measure regeneration. And for that reason, we developed an MRV together with our farmer community and with university partners like Wageningen. And on that field, we are testing things like soil health, biodiversity, and water cycle. And just to close on a positive note, what we can see on all the farms where we have measured, we have a 93% of improvement on the indicators, ranging between 15 and 20%. Thank you very much.